It was late, 2:47 a.m., the kind of hour when cities sleep and secrets wake up. Rain whispered against the asphalt, streetlights blinked like tired eyes. A white water moved slowly down an empty road, cautious, silent. Then, red and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror. A patrol car. A stop. Routine, or so it seemed. Officer Daniel, young, confident, 5 years on the force. To him, every stop was power, every silence an order waiting to be given. But this time, something felt off. The man behind the wheel didn't look scared. He looked calm, too calm. Daniel's instincts screamed, this wasn't normal. He stepped out, boots hitting the wet pavement, hand near his holster. "Evening, sir. License and registration." The man inside didn't move, just turned his head slowly. "Did I do something wrong, officer?" Daniel hated that tone. Polite, controlled. Like the man knew something he didn't. Rain slid down Daniel's badge as he leaned closer. "You were driving without your headlights," he said. The words sounded weak, even to him. He just needed a reason, any reason. The man nodded, opened the glove box, moved slowly. His movements were precise, measured, no fear, no rush. He handed over a wallet. Daniel took it, and in that second, lightning flashed. The light hit the badge inside the wallet, and Daniel froze. The ID read, Deputy Chief of Internal Affairs, Marcus Carter. For a heartbeat, the world went quiet. Even the rain held its breath. Daniel blinked, trying to process it. He had just pulled over one of the most powerful men in the department, the man who investigates them. Marcus Carter didn't say a word. He just looked at him. Calm, cold, almost disappointed. Daniel's radio cracked with static. He reached for it, but no words came out. His throat had turned to dust. Carter finally spoke. Quietly. "I think there's been a mistake." The rain picked up again, washing over the flashing lights. Daniel stepped back, heartbeat pounding in his ears. He wanted to say something, anything, but the silence said more than words ever could. That night, two forces collided, authority and accountability. One man believed he was the law. The other was there to test it. And under those flashing lights, the system finally looked into its own reflection. This wasn't a traffic stop. It was the beginning of an investigation that would tear a department apart. Marcus Carter, a name most civilians never heard, but every cop whispered. Inside the department, his name meant one thing: fear. Because Carter wasn't out there chasing criminals, he was chasing cops. He'd built his career on breaking the blue wall, that silent code that protects the guilty. To most, he was a threat. To a few, he was a necessary evil. They called him the Cleaner, not because he made things disappear, but because he made sure nothing stayed buried. Before Internal Affairs, Carter was a soldier. Iraq. 2 tours. He'd seen chaos, the kind that never leaves you, and he'd learned something there. Truth doesn't always survive the battlefield. So when he came home, he made sure it survived everywhere else. He joined the police force, climbed fast, not because he was friendly, because he was relentless. He didn't drink, didn't joke, didn't smile. He read reports like autopsies, line by line, mistake by mistake. And every mistake was a body waiting to be uncovered. Carter didn't make friends. He made enemies, powerful ones, commanders, sergeants. Even the chief owed him favors. But he didn't care. He wasn't there for loyalty. He was there for the law. When Carter became head of internal affairs, the department changed overnight. Files reopened, officers questioned, names that used to be untouchable suddenly under review. He started watching everything: body cams, incident reports, traffic stops. He said, "The truth is in the details." But what he found wasn't truth. It was rot. Carter began connecting the dots, corruption that reached all the way to City Hall, and every dot he connected put another target on his back. One night, a friend warned him, "Marcus, you keep digging, the system will bury you." He just smiled. "Then I'll dig from underneath." But the system doesn't bury people quietly. It makes them disappear. And when Officer Daniels stopped Marcus Carter that rainy night, Carter didn't realize he'd just found the proof he'd been searching for. A living, breathing example of the rot he'd been fighting all along. He didn't know it yet, but that traffic stop wasn't random. It was the beginning of the end, for him and for everyone who thought the system was untouchable. Rain hammered the pavement. Red and blue lights painted the night like a heartbeat. Two men stood face to face, one holding authority, the other holding truth. For a long moment, neither spoke. It wasn't silence, it was a standoff. Officer Daniel tried to steady his breath. His fingers brushed the edge of his holster, not out of threat, but habit. Control. He needed control. Marcus Carter didn't flinch. His eyes didn't waver. He had faced war zones quieter than this moment. Daniel finally said, "What are you doing out here at this hour?" Carter replied calmly, "Checking my territory. You?" The words hit Daniel like a slap. My territory. He'd always believed the streets belonged to him, his rules, his law. But now, someone higher was questioning that power. Daniel forced a laugh, masking the unease. "I'm just doing my job, keeping the streets clean." Carter tilted his head slightly. "So am I." That sentence hung in the air, sharp and heavy. For the first time, Daniel realized who stood in front of him. Not a man, but the very system that could end his career with one signature. His body cam blinked, a tiny red light, recording everything. Carter's gaze shifted toward it. "Make sure that's still working. You'll need it." Static cracked on the radio. Daniel's voice trembled slightly as he pressed the button. "Dispatch, I need verification. Subject claims to be Deputy Chief of Internal Affairs." A pause. Then the voice from dispatch came through, tight, cautious. "Officer, do not engage further. That's an active department official. Repeat, step down." Daniel's hand froze. For a second, the world shrunk to the sound of rain hitting metal. Carter took one slow step closer. "You see, Officer Daniel," he said, "the problem with power is it only works until someone stronger walks in." Daniel's pulse roared in his ears. He could feel the weight of his badge, heavy, burning. Everything he thought he understood about control started slipping. Carter turned away, walking back toward his car. But before getting in, he stopped, looked over his shoulder. "Don't worry," he said quietly. You won't forget tonight." As Carter's taillights disappeared into the rain, Daniel stood frozen in the flashing blue glow. He didn't know it yet, but his body cam, that tiny blinking red light, would become the match that set fire to the entire department. Morning. The storm had passed, but the city still looked wet with secrets. Inside the precinct, coffee steamed, printers hummed, and everyone acted like nothing had happened. But something had. Something was missing. Marcus Carter walked into the digital records room. He'd spent the whole night replaying that encounter in his head. Every word, every glance. Now he wanted the proof, the body cam footage. He asked the tech officer, a young man behind glowing monitors, "Pull me last night's patrol feed for Officer Daniel." The kid typed, lines of code flickering across the screen. Then he frowned. That's strange." Carter asked, "Strange how?" The tech swallowed. "The file's gone, sir. Not corrupted. Deleted. No backup." The room went still. Machines hummed. Carter leaned closer, eyes narrowing. Files don't delete themselves. The kid didn't answer. He just looked scared. Carter opened the access log. 3 a.m. Entry, Admin 03. Only 3 people had that level of clearance, and one of them was Chief Collins. A cold realization slid through him. He'd seen this pattern before. Whenever an internal scandal got too close to the top, files disappeared and witnesses forgot how to speak. Carter closed the monitor. He said, "Print me everything you can." The tech hesitated. "Sir, if they find out Carter cut him off. "They already know. They always know." Back in his office, Carter spread old reports across his desk. Traffic stops, complaints, audio logs. One name repeated itself: Daniel. But each report ended the same way. Case closed. Insufficient evidence. He stared at those words until they blurred. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Silence at first, then a familiar voice. "Marcus, let it go. Sometimes silence keeps us alive." It was Daniel. Carter's voice hardened. "Silence doesn't protect anyone, officer. It only protects the guilty." He hung up. He typed a note into his case log. File number 03. Deleted body cam footage. Possible internal sabotage. Then he added one more line. Find who pressed delete. Every system has a delete key. And somewhere, someone had just used theirs to erase the truth. But Carter wasn't done. He'd just found his first clue. And his first enemy. When Marcus Carter officially opened the internal investigation, the air inside the department changed. People stopped talking when he entered. Smiles disappeared. Eyes avoided his. It was as if a disease had walked into the room. He'd seen fear before, but not like this. This was quiet fear, the kind that spreads faster than lies. Every morning he arrived early, sat in his office surrounded by cold coffee cups and colder stares. He interviewed officers one by one. Every answer was the same. "I don't know. I didn't see. I wasn't there." He didn't need evidence to know what this was, the blue wall of silence. It's not written in any manual, but every cop knows it. When one falls, the rest stand quiet. That's how the system protects itself.
Carter held a department meeting. He looked around the table, faces of people he'd trained, trusted. He placed a printed report on the desk. "Officer Daniel's footage is missing," he said. "I need names, access logs, anything." No one spoke. One officer shifted in his chair. Another coughed. Silence was their armor. Finally, Carter said, "I'm not asking you to betray anyone. I'm asking you to tell the truth." Still, nothing. Just the hum of the lights. He realized the system didn't need to fight him. It just needed to stop talking. That afternoon, an email arrived in his inbox. No sender listed, no greeting, just one line. "Your investigation is causing unnecessary pressure. Stand down." Signed, Chief Collins. The same man who once called Carter the future of the department. Now even he had gone quiet. Carter stared at the message for a long time. Then he whispered to himself, "Silence is the loudest form of betrayal." That night his phone buzzed. Unknown caller. A voice, distorted, low. "Stop digging, Carter. This isn't just about Daniel. They're watching you now." He looked out his window. Across the street, a black SUV parked under a flickering lamp. Two silhouettes inside. No movement, just watching. For the first time, Marcus Carter understood what it meant to investigate a system that protects itself. He wasn't the hunter anymore. He was the prey. Every man has a breaking point. For Marcus Carter, it came wrapped in an envelope. He found it waiting on his desk one morning. No name, no return address, just a plain manila file marked "Confidential." Inside, photographs. The pictures showed him, a dark parking lot, a woman he'd never seen, an exchange, an envelope handed to him. Timestamps, locations, everything looked real. Too real. But Carter knew the trick. He'd seen doctored evidence before, just never starring himself. He flipped through the photos slowly. At the bottom, a typed note. "No one is clean." He knew what this was. A message, a warning, and a trap. An hour later, the email came. Subject line, "Internal Affairs under review." It was from the prosecutor's office. They were opening an investigation into him. The accusation? Unauthorized surveillance, misuse of departmental funds, tampering with evidence. Carter read the words twice. They had turned his own methods against him. He'd spent years exposing dirty cops, and now the system was calling him one of them. He closed the email, whispering, "They want to bury me under my own files." He was summoned to a hearing. Inside the boardroom, Chief Collins, the city attorney, and Daniel. Collins spoke first. "Marcus, the evidence against you is serious. Body cam footage shows you threatening Officer Daniel." Carter looked at Daniel, calm but burning. "I never said that." Daniel's lips tightened. "You told me you'll regret crossing me." The lie was smooth, practiced, and for the first time Carter realized how deep this went. This wasn't about one file anymore. It was about control. Collins sighed. "You've done good work, Marcus, but this has gone too far. You're suspended, effective immediately." Carter stood. He took off his badge, placed it on the table, and said softly, Power doesn't scare me, Chief. Silence does. Outside, the rain had started again. He walked alone toward his car, the city lights reflecting off wet asphalt like ghosts. In his hand, a small flash drive. He'd made a copy of everything: reports, recordings, access logs, evidence they didn't know still existed. He whispered to himself, "They built a trap, but they forgot I write the rules." The system thought it had silenced him, but Carter wasn't finished. He was just about to speak louder to the entire world. When the truth starts bleeding, it always stains the ones closest to you. Marcus Carter had been suspended for a week, but silence never stopped him before. He worked in secret, tracing deleted files, hidden servers, encrypted messages. And he found something he wished he hadn't. One night, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message appeared. A single link and 3 words. You can't trust him. He opened the link. It led to a hidden police database log, detailing every time his personal case files had been accessed. One name repeated: Detective Eddie Navarro. Eddie, his oldest friend, the man who'd watched his back in the field, the only person he still believed in. And now that name sat there, like a signature on a confession. Carter called him. "Eddie, coffee, Dockside Cafe, midnight." No small talk, no hesitation, just truth waiting to be spoken. The docks were silent that night. Wind over the water. A broken street lamp flickered like a warning. Eddie was already there, cigarette burning down to ash. Eddie said quietly, "Marcus, you shouldn't have called me. They're watching." Marcus's voice was low. "They've been watching me for months. The question is, why are you helping them?" Eddie froze. The cigarette trembled between his fingers. "Don't do this. You don't know what they can do." Carter stepped closer. "I know exactly what they can do. I just didn't think you were one of them." Eddie pulled a small flash drive from his pocket. "Take it," he said. "It's got the meeting logs, everything they said about you." Carter hesitated, took it. But when he looked up, Eddie's eyes were wet. Guilt, fear, shame. He walked away without another word. Carter went home, plugged the drive in. The files loaded: audio clips, meeting notes, and one video file. He clicked play. It was Eddie's voice and a recorded testimony. "Marcus Carter is gone rogue. He's violating protocol. He's become a liability." Carter sat there in the dark, listening to his friend sell him piece by piece. When it ended, the room was silent, except for the sound of his own breathing. He whispered to himself, "Betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It wears your face." The next day, Eddie was gone. No calls, no reports. Vanished. Some said he ran. Some said he was taken. Carter didn't ask. He already knew the answer. He opened his notebook, wrote one line beneath a list of names: "No more allies, only truth." From that night on, Marcus Carter stopped being part of the system. He became its reckoning. Every lie leaves a footprint. Marcus Carter had followed them all, step by step,
until they led him right to the truth. And the truth was radioactive. He hadn't slept in 3 days. Screens glowed across the dark room, data logs, server backups, recovered audio. But then he found it. One file. The one everyone thought was gone forever. It was buried deep in an off-grid backup server. File name: incident_0327 backup.mp4. The night of the traffic stop. The night it all began. He opened it. Static first, then Daniel's voice, the rain, the flashlight, and Carter's badge in the beam. Everything was there, proof. He watched the footage 3 times. Every second burned into him like a scar. Then he whispered, "They erased the evidence, but they didn't erase me." Carter knew what he had to do. He couldn't trust the press, couldn't trust the courts, so he turned to the only place left, the internet. He encrypted the file, uploaded it through a secure proxy. Progress bar: 22%, 54%, 87%. His reflection stared back at him from the monitor. Tired eyes. A man stripped of everything except purpose. Then footsteps echoed in the hallway. He turned. The door opened. Officer Daniels stood there, gun drawn, rain dripping off his jacket.
"Don't do this, Marcus," Daniel said. "You'll take all of us down." Carter didn't move. He just glanced at the upload bar. 92%. He said quietly, "I'm not taking you down, Daniel. You did that the moment you pulled me over." Daniel's voice cracked. "They'll destroy you." Carter smiled faintly. They already tried. The upload hit 100%. A small pop-up blinked. Upload complete. For a second, neither man moved. Then Daniel lowered his gun. "You just lit a fuse you can't control," he said. Carter: "Good." By dawn, the video was everywhere. News feeds, social media, live streams, millions of views in hours. Every second of corruption laid bare for the world to see. Chief Collins resigned before noon. Daniel was arrested. Officers turned on each other. The department that had built its walls of silence was now burning from the inside. And somewhere, in a small apartment, Marcus Carter sat alone, watching it all unfold. The truth had finally spoken, but its voice was fire. The truth was out. The city couldn't unsee it. Screens everywhere glowed with the same story: the officer, the corruption, the man who broke the silence. By sunrise, every headline had the same name: Marcus Carter. Some called him a hero, others a traitor, but nobody called him a liar. The police department fell into chaos. Investigations opened. Badges were surrendered. A few officers resigned. A few were arrested. And a few just disappeared. Chief Collins was escorted out of the building under flashing cameras. Daniel sat in a cell, silent, staring at the wall. And somewhere beyond the noise, Carter was gone. No one knew where he went. His apartment was empty, phone disconnected, like he'd stepped out of one story and into another. Reporters searched. Colleagues speculated. Some said he fled the country. Others whispered that the system finally caught him. But there were no footprints, no calls, no trace. All that remained was his work, hundreds of files, notes, and recordings. Every piece of truth he had collected, left behind for whoever was brave enough to continue. His wife gave one interview, her eyes red, voice trembling. She found justice, she said, but she lost himself in it.
Justice always comes with a price tag. Sometimes it costs time. Sometimes it costs peace. And sometimes it costs the person who chased it. Weeks later, a new chief took over. Cameras rolled as he promised reform, transparency, a new era of trust. But in the crowd, some people stayed quiet because they'd heard those words before. The city moved on, but not the people who watched the video. Every time they saw flashing red and blue lights, they remembered the night one man forced the system to look in the mirror. Carter's desk remained in the corner of internal affairs, untouched. A cup of cold coffee, a stack of unopened letters, and one note in his handwriting. Justice isn't clean. It never was. He proved that truth could win, but he also proved that truth can destroy. The system had been shaken, and somewhere, in the stillness that followed, the city finally understood. Every act of justice takes something in return. The city moved on. New faces filled old offices. The reports were filed, the statements signed. On paper, justice had been served. But papers lie. In the quiet hours, when the hallways of the precinct went dark, some still swore they heard it. A faint hum, a voice from an old speaker in Carter's abandoned office. A janitor found it first. A small recorder, half covered in dust, its red light still blinking. He pressed play. If you're hearing this, it means the truth got out. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it because someone had to. Because the system I loved forgot who it was supposed to protect. I spent years chasing corruption, and every time I peeled back a layer, I found another uniform underneath. The janitor froze, listening. The voice felt alive even through static. I'm not a hero. Heroes fix things. All I did was expose them. I've seen how power hides behind paperwork, how silence becomes policy, how justice becomes a brand instead of a belief. They'll rebuild the system, they always do, and it'll look cleaner, sound better, but it'll still be watching you. Carter's voice cracked at the end, like a man caught between pride and regret. I've asked myself one question, over and over. Who watches the watchman? And now I know the answer. It's not the press, not the courts, not the law. It's us, ordinary people. Because justice dies the moment we stop looking.